Coming back, coming to this new section, it is JavaScript. Okay. In JavaScript, you will learn how to process something. In HTML, you have learned how to represent anything. That means that till now you have learned about all sort of static content on a web page. Okay. By using the form, you can take the input, but you cannot perform any type of processing on that one in HTML. Therefore, we are going towards our next section of this laboratory, which is JavaScript. Before I will start about the JavaScript, I am giving you 5 minutes time. Quickly search on the internet what is JavaScript, what is the history of JavaScript, and then after 5 minutes, you will tell me that what is JavaScript. Okay, so quickly go to the internet and search about it. Who has developed this, where it has been developed, why it has been developed, okay, what is the purpose of using JavaScript, whether it is a client-side language or it is a server-side language, what type of different operations that are possible with JavaScript. Okay, so search about all these things on the internet. Okay, so Alok, what you have know about come to know about JavaScript?
Ma'am, it is a text-based programming language which is used on both sides, as a client side and a server side, that allows you to make a web page interactive.
It is used on server side.
Ma'am, that is written on the net.
On which website?
Uh, Ma'am. Mm,
Okay, later on check it because I don't think so. It could be written anywhere. It is a client-side programming language, JavaScript.
okay, ma'am. And it is developed by Brandon Each.
Okay, here.
1993, ma'am. Uh,
Okay, okay. Arun,
Yes, ma'am.
yes. What is the extension of a JavaScript file?
Extension of JavaScript file, ma'am. Ma'am, .js.
Yes, it's .js.
Yes.
Okay. So whether the Java and JavaScript both are same?
No, ma'am. JavaScript and Java both are different because, ma'am, JavaScript, which I study here on online, is a scripting language most often used for client-side web development. So, ma'am, both are different, ma'am. One is programming language, and JavaScript is mostly used for just like a visual impression on a HTML file, something. So, ma'am, both are different.
Okay, but I'm not getting your last line. Please check what you are saying in the last, that it is giving a visual impression of Java HTML file.
Yes, ma'am. Like, ma'am, if we just take an example of a body, like HTML is our bone parts, and our skin, clothes, or something like we have done with JavaScript.
No, no. The appearance is handled by the HTML, okay? The
Okay.
processing, or you can say on a human body, whatever you are visualizing externally, whether it is your clothes, whether it is the skin, everything is HTML, and whatever organ is working inside it can be a JavaScript because it is not coming on a front end. You cannot see the JavaScript on the front end. It is the HTML page that you are visualizing. The processing part is done by the JavaScript. Okay. Okay. Next, Bhagat.
Yes, ma'am.
What is the scripting language?
Scripting language.
Yes, we are saying JavaScript, isn't it? So JavaScript is not an object-oriented language, but an object-based scripting language.
I don't know actual definition.
Okay, so all of you quickly search what is scripting language. Search what is scripting language. Okay, so Shivam, what is a scripting language?
Ma'am, it is a programming language for runtime system that automates the execution of tasks.
What does this mean?
हाँ मैम, ये एक प्रोग्रामिंग लैंग्वेज है जो किसी टास्क को एग्जीक्यूट करने के लिए हेल्प करती है।
सारी प्रोग्रामिंग लैंग्वेज कोई ना कोई टास्क एग्जीक्यूट करते हैं. ओके, नेक्स्ट. शुभम, व्हाट इज स्क्रिप्टिंग लैंग्वेज?
Ma'am, it's a programming language for runtime system that automates the execution of tasks that would otherwise performed individually by human operator. I couldn't get it, but it's written on the net that time.
Okay, so anybody want to give a simplified answer of this question? What is scripting language? Not the definition which is written on the internet.
Ma'am, means like if we are making something, we are creating something, and we want to check it parallelly that whether it is working or not. Then the scripting language is such kind of language which do not require a particular compilation step, and it is rather get interpreted parallelly.
Yes, this is one of the major difference. The compilation and interpretation. If you go for any of the regular object-oriented language like Java or C++, something like that, the compilation in C, C++, Java, everywhere the code first need to be compiled and thereafter it is interpreted. But when we go for the scripting language, there is no compiler. It is directly interpreted and given on the results are demonstrated on the screen. So the compiler is missing in such type of language, and they are comparatively lightweight than the other full-fledged languages. Okay, now I'm going to start about the JavaScript, and all of you must have a little bit idea by yourself about the JavaScript. So I'm quickly going through the theory part, and okay. So first about the history of JavaScript, when it is started. So JavaScript came about as a joint effort between Netscape Communication Corporation and Sun Microsystem. Okay, could you answer what is means? Why Netscape is popular and why Sun Microsystem is popular? Which product of both these companies, Netscape and Sun Microsystem? What is the popular? What are the popular products of these two different companies? Could you name? Everybody know.
Netscape browser.
Yes, Netscape is
Netscape 9.
popular for its browser, but nowadays we do not use the Netscape browsers. But earlier, because it was in 1995, so it was in 1990s starting period of the web. At that time, the Netscape browsers were very popular. Okay, coming to the next one, Sun Microsystem.
Ma'am, I think Internet
Ma'am,
Explorer.
Oracle.
Mhm. Oracle is the name of a company.
Yes, ma'am.
Search it about it on the internet. It is a very famous product or very famous programming language.
Ma'am, Unix.
Are you sure about the Unix? I don't think so. It will be Unix. Check it again.
Ma'am, Java itself.
Yes, it is the Java language. Java programming language was given by Sun Microsystem. Search about the name of the developers who has developed the Java.
Ma'am, developed by James Gosling at Sun
Yes.
Microsystem.
It was developed by, I'm just reading it out. The history of Java is very interesting, and Java was originally designed for interactive television, but it was too advanced technology for the digital cable television industry at the time. The history of Java starts with the Green Team. Java team members initiated this project to develop a language for digital devices such as set-top box, television, etc. It was best suited for internet programming language. Later, Java technology was incorporated by Netscape. Yes. So Java was developed by James Gosling. His picture is given over here, and he was known as the father of Java in the year 1995. Okay, and there are other names also who has initiated this project. Okay, along with James Gosling, Mike Sheridan, Patrick Nongton initiated the Java project in the year 1991. The small team of Sun engineers. Sun means Sun Microsystem. Okay. Yeah, this one is interesting. Why they have choose the name Java for Java language? The team gathered to choose a new name. The suggested name were Dynamic, Revolutionary, Silk, Jolt, DN, etc. They wanted something that reflected the essence of the technology: revolutionary, dynamic, lively, cool, unique, easy to spell, and fun. According to James Gosling, Java was one of the top choices along with Silk. Java was so unique, most of the team members preferred Java than other names. Java is an island in Indonesia where the first coffee was produced, called Java coffee. It is a kind of espresso bean. Java name was chosen by James Gosling while having a cup of coffee nearby his office. So this is a very short, interesting history of Java. So all those who student, and maybe some of you are from computer science background. So if you have learned about the Java in your BTech, because it is usually in the course curriculum. So when we learn about the Java, we used to learn about this history. So I was just giving you a short historical facts about the Java because sometimes there is a confusion between Java and JavaScript. So that one was the history of Java. Coming back to the JavaScript, JavaScript came about as a joint effort between Netscape Communication Corporation and Sun Microsystem. And from the past, you can see that Netscape has played a pioneering role in the development of different things which are related to the web. Okay, so in the development of Java, you have seen the name of the Netscape. In the JavaScript development also, there is a role of Netscape Communications. In which year it was released? Okay, write down these things in your copy. Okay, if you listen, just only listen these things and you will not remember. Write down, it was developed in the year 1995. What is the purpose of JavaScript? Quickly write it down everything. In the year 1995, it was developed. Why JavaScript was developed? Okay, like you have just seen why Java was developed. It was initially developed for the digital products. Okay. Similarly over here, why Java was developed? JavaScript was developed. So the answer is given in the last point. It was designed to add interactivity to the HTML pages. Now, second point, JavaScript is an object based. Now, see this thing carefully. It is object based, not object oriented. Got it? So, JavaScript is an object based client side scripting language that you can use to make web pages more dynamic. We have learned about the static and dynamic thing in the web maps. So here also, when we talk about the web pages, if we see the HTML pages, they are static in nature, means the user input doesn't matter. It is a static thing, and even user makes some input, like in a drop down menu, if you select anything, or in a text field, if you enter anything, there will be no change. Okay, based upon the user input, there is no change. That's why HTML is static in nature. When we come to the JavaScript, it is dynamic in nature. It adds dynamicity to the HTML. That's why HTML and JavaScript together makes dynamic HTML. Okay. So DHTML is equal to HTML plus JavaScript. Okay. So next, object based. Okay. I was highlighting this fact that it is object based, not object oriented. when we use any of the object oriented language, in that case, we can define different types of objects and we can do the coding of that one. But in this case, items will be declared as the object and we will use them as it is. What does this thing mean? In the later sessions, okay, it was like the last laboratory on the JavaScript. In that one, we will see about the object based programming over there. So right now, just see this fact that JavaScript is an object-based programming language. However, the objects are not class, meaning no distinction is made between a class and an instance. Instead, they are just a general objects. Meaning of this particular slide will be explained later on when you learn the object-based programming of JavaScript in the later laboratory sessions. Client side. So I hope everybody now understand what is the meaning of client side, what is the meaning of the server side, because we have learned both these things in detail in the lecture session. Okay. So in that over there, you have learned about the client side program, client side technology, server side technology, and thereafter you have learned about the thin client architecture and the thick client architecture. So thin client architecture means server side architecture and thick client means client side architecture. So same thing is given over here also. I am just reading out these slides. Client side means that JavaScript runs in the client that the viewer is using rather than on the web server of the site serving the page. In this case, the client would be a web browser. To make more sense of this, let's take a look at how a server-side language works and how a client-side language works. Server-side languages. A server-side language needs to get information from the web page or the web browser, send it to a program that runs on the host server, and then send the information back to the browser. A server-side language often gives the programmer options that a client-side language doesn't have, such as saving information on the web server for later use, or using new information to update a web page and save the updates. However, a server-side language is likely to be limited in its ability to deal with special features of the browser window that can be accessed with a client-side language, like the content in a particular location on a web page or the content of a form before it's submitted to the server. Client-side languages. A client-side language is run directly through the client being used by the viewer. In the case of JavaScript, the client is a web browser. Therefore, JavaScript is run directly in the web browser and doesn't need to go through the extra step of sending and receiving information from the web server. When a with a client-side language, the browser reads and interprets the code, and the results can be given to the viewer without getting information from the server first. This process can make certain tasks run more quickly. A client-side language can also access special features of a browser window that may not be accessible with a server-side language. However, a client-side language lacks the ability to save file updates or updates to files on a web server like a server-side language can. So this thing must be clear to everyone that when we talk about a server-side language, can you give any example of server-side language? Yes, any example of server-side language?
PHP.
Python, ma'am.
Okay. Anything else?
Ma'am, JavaScript itself.
Server-side language. How it?
Examples are coming on the internet now.
See this, see this figure.
Ma'am,
Okay.
C++,
Yes.
Ruby.
So for the programming language, first there will be a Java suite of programming languages that will include Java Electronic Edition, Java Server Pages, Servlet. These will work on the server side. Then there will be a .NET suite of programming language that will include ASP.NET, C Hash, VB.NET. Then there can be PHP, there can be Python. These all are the example of server-side programming language. When we talk about the client-side programming language or a browser-based languages, then HTML, CSS, JavaScript, Ajax, Flex, Silverlight, JavaFX, all these are the example of client-side or browser-side programming languages. So among all these languages, we have learned about the HTML. Now we are learning about the JavaScript over here. Scripting language, we have discussed it about it. A scripting language doesn't require a program to be compiled before it is run. With a regular programming language, before we can run a program that we have written, we must compile it using a special compiler to be sure there are no syntax error. What is syntax error? There are two types of errors, syntax error and semantic error. What is the meaning of these two terms, syntax and semantics?
Some
And it is
syntax
not
are those which we use as a keywords, and if we write it incorrectly.
syntax as keyword, is it?
Yes, ma'am, means particular things which we are like writing like in HTML. HTML must be a syntax.
No.
Ma'am, syntax error is an incorrect construction of the source code, whereas semantic error is erroneous logic that produces the wrong result when
Yes.
executed.
Yes. So if you write something incorrectly, okay, um, like although there is no problem in HTML because it is quite lenient, but still many times what you do that inside the head tag, many students write H1 tag or BR tag, something like that. So I always tell you that inside the head tag, there can only be a title tag. Don't place all these things. It should be inside the body tag, isn't it? So such type of mistake will be the syntax error of your code. If something which is not written correctly, like if you defining a variable and if you are not using a proper naming convention, if you are not using correct spelling of different keywords, something like that. All these are the example of syntax error. Got it? When we talk about a semantic error means if there is some problem in the logic of your code. Okay. So if there is a semantic error, most of the time the code will get executed, but it will not give you the correct result. So these are the two types of error, and it is not just limited over here in the JavaScript or Java C. It is means you must know about these terms in a general way also. What is the difference between the syntax and semantics? Next thing is JavaScript is not Java. So as you know, both are the different languages. Java is an object-oriented language, is a very strong, very powerful language. It is a full programming language. When we come to a JavaScript, now JavaScript is an object-based language, not an object-oriented language like Java. It is comparatively lenient than the Java. Java is strict language, and if you make any of the mistake in the syntax of the code, it will not get executed. Okay, so Java provide you more options, more power while doing a coding, but JavaScript provide you a limited amount of functionalities as compared to Java. So since JavaScript is a scripting language, therefore there is no compiler. The code is directly interpreted and results are rendered on the screen. Java being the object-oriented language, the code is first compiled, and once the compilation is done, the next step is interpretation. Okay, so make sure that don't confuse with Java and JavaScript. JavaScript is very simple as compared to Java. There is no difficulty in learning of JavaScript, but when you learn Java, it is comparatively difficult. Syntax of both the Java and JavaScript is intentionally made similar so that people who are working on both the languages doesn't need to learn all the syntax again. So many times those students who already know a little bit about Java, they will find JavaScript somewhat similar in its syntax to the Java. What JavaScript could do? So JavaScript can react to event. What is event? Event means when you make a mouse click, when you press a refresh button, all these are the example of events. Okay, so when you do such type of thing, like if you click your mouse, if you press a refresh button, if you press submit button, whatever you are doing, the reaction of this one is coded by Java. Like if you press a submit button, then what will happen? Then Java can read and write HTML elements. You will learn it today. JavaScript can be used to validate data. JavaScript can be used to detect the visitor's browser. JavaScript can be used to create cookies. So we will not cover this cookies and other things, but it is more advanced form of JavaScript. Those who are interested can learn these things by themselves, that how to create cookies by using the JavaScript. Now, how to run JavaScript in a browser? Everybody know how to run an HTML in a web browser? Okay. How do you run an HTML code? You simply opens one text editor like Notepad, Notepad++, write down your code, save it with .html extension, and then open that document in the web browser. If you make any modification in the code, then you again save it and press the refresh button in the web browser so that the things will get displayed over there. Now we are coming to the JavaScript. How to execute a JavaScript. Now listen this part carefully. JavaScript code is embedded inside the HTML. Okay, so JavaScript doesn't work independently. It need to be associated with the HTML code. Now, there are two ways in which we can include the JavaScript in our HTML document. Okay, first thing is inside the HTML document itself, we can add the JavaScript code, but usually it is preferred that we write a separate JavaScript file and cause that file, just like the way you have called new pages in the anchor tag by using href, or call a new image by using img and src. Similarly, in the JavaScript also, we can make a call to a JavaScript external files. So there are two ways we can add it internally inside the HTML document, or we can call an external JavaScript document. Usually external document is preferred as compared to the internal document. Got it? So JavaScript runs in the browser by being added into an existing HTML document, either directly or by referring to an external JavaScript file. We can add special tags and commands to the HTML code that will tell the browser that it needs to run a script. Once the browser sees these special tags, it interprets the JavaScript commands and will do what we have directed it to do with our code. Thus, by simply editing an HTML document, we can begin using JavaScript on our web pages and see the results. So this is how the script tag is used. For the JavaScript, we need a script tag. So script tags are used to tell the browser where some type of scripting language will begin and end in an HTML document. So just script, then you will write the JavaScript code and then close the script tag. Opening will tell the browser where the script code begin and closing will tell the browser where the script code ends. Scripting language between the opening and closing tags could be JavaScript, VB-script, some other language, okay? So it is not limited to JavaScript. There are several other options. And since we are working on a JavaScript, therefore it is better to explicitly mention it. How we explicitly mention that the code is in JavaScript? For this purpose, we add a type attribute with the script tag. Okay, script type equal to text oblique JavaScript. So if you add this attribute, then this will tell the browser the scripting language will be JavaScript. Okay, write down this part in your copy. Write down this 3-line code in your copy. We will use it when we do this JavaScript coding. But right now, these 3 lines in your copy. Script type equal to text oblique JavaScript. Close the angle bracket. Then place the JavaScript code and close the script tag. This is how you will include an internal JavaScript code. Okay, so ये चीज ध्यान से सुन लीजिए. JavaScript code आपके HTML फाइल में 2 तरीके से ऐड होता है. एक बार आप उसे इंटरनली ऐड कर सकते हैं और दूसरा तरीका होता है कि आप उसे एक्सटर्नल फाइल में सेव करा सकते हैं. यहाँ पर जो एग्जांपल दिया जा रहा है, अगर आप जावास्क्रिप्ट के कोड को अपने HTML के ही अंदर इंक्लूड कर रहे हैं, तब आप ये जो 3-लाइन कोड दिया हुआ है, स्क्रिप्ट टैग्स के बीच में जावास्क्रिप्ट का कोड लिखते हैं और HTML के ही अंदर उसको रख देते हैं. तो इसमें कोई अलग से जावास्क्रिप्ट फाइल को कॉल नहीं कराया जाता. यूजुअली हम इंटरनल जावास्क्रिप्ट को यूज करने से बचते हैं, क्योंकि अगर आप जो स्ट्रक्चर माना जाता है कि कंटेंट जो है वो HTML में हो, जो प्रेजेंटेशन है, जो फॉर्मेटिंग है वो CSS फाइल में हो और जो प्रोसेसिंग है वो जावास्क्रिप्ट फाइल में हो. अलग अलग करने से कोड में क्लैरिटी बढ़ती है. अगर कोई दूसरा व्यक्ति जब इस कोड को देखे तो उसको ज्यादा समझने की जरूरत नहीं है. इससे एक तो फाइल की लेंथ कम होती है. अगर आप फाइल को ब्रेक करते हैं 3 अलग अलग पार्ट में, तो उससे कोई भी HTML की फाइल होगी, ऑटोमेटिकली उसकी लेंथ कम हो जाएगी और दूसरा उसको समझना इजी हो जाता है. तो यहाँ 3 लाइन ऑफ कोड जो अभी आपने देखे, ये इंटरनल कॉलिंग के लिए है. अब ये नेक्स्ट कोड देखिए यहाँ पर. ठीक है, इसमें क्या किया जा रहा है, उसी का ये दूसरा वर्जन है कि अगर आपको किसी एक्सटर्नल फाइल को कॉल कराना है, ठीक है, जावास्क्रिप्ट का कोड HTML के अंदर ना लिख करके अगर बाहर अलग से फाइल में, जैसे HTML की फाइल बनाई थी वैसे ही जावास्क्रिप्ट की भी फाइल बनाएंगे. अब बाहर बनी जावास्क्रिप्ट फाइल को आप कैसे HTML के अंदर से कॉल कराएंगे, उसके लिए यहाँ पर जो लास्ट लाइन में जो कोड लिखा है उसको यूज किया जाता है. ध्यान रखें, जावास्क्रिप्ट की जो फाइल बनती है उसका एक्सटेंशन .js होता है. जैसे HTML की फाइल का एक्सटेंशन .html होता है, उसी तरीके से जावास्क्रिप्ट फाइल का जो एक्सटेंशन है वो .js होता है. यहाँ पर प्रीवियस कोड जो अभी आपने इससे पहले जस्ट लिखा वही सेम चल रहा है. स्क्रिप्ट टैग लग रहा है, टाइप एट्रीब्यूट लग रहा है, सेम वैल्यू टेक्स्ट ऑब्लिक जावास्क्रिप्ट लिखी जा रही है. यहाँ पर एक एक्स्ट्रा एट्रीब्यूट ऐड हो रहा है, वो है SRC एट्रीब्यूट. SRC एट्रीब्यूट आप लोग ने इमेज में भी यूज किया था, यहाँ पे भी यूज कर रहे हैं. SRC एट्रीब्यूट क्या बताएगा, जावास्क्रिप्ट की जिस फाइल को कॉल कराया जा रहा है उस फाइल का लोकेशन और उस फाइल का नाम. ठीक है, सेम फोल्डर में जहां HTML रखा है वहीं पर जावास्क्रिप्ट भी रखा है. तो SRC में आप केवल जावास्क्रिप्ट का नेमिंग कर देंगे. अगर कहीं और रखा है तो आपने एब्सोल्यूट और रिलेटिव एड्रेसिंग पहले भी सीखी है, जैसे इमेज में यूज कर रहे थे उसी तरीके से यहाँ पे भी यूज करेंगे. तो हमारा प्रिफर्ड मेथड जो इस वाले स्लाइड में दिया हुआ है इसी को किया जाता है. इसको लिख लीजिए, इस लाइन को, आखिरी वाली, और फिर हम लोग देखते हैं इसको आगे. So script tags are also useful if we wish to call an external JavaScript file to our document. An external JavaScript file is a text file that contains JavaScript code and it is saved with the .js file extension. By calling an external file, we can save the time of coding or copying a long script into each page in which the script is needed. We can call external scripts by adding an src attribute to the opening script tag. Okay. Now, next, there is statement in JavaScript code. What is the meaning of statement? So statement will tell the browser what to perform. Okay, what to do, it is given by the statement. So there are several statements in an JavaScript file. So it will, with the help of the statements, some of the tasks will be performed, and JavaScript statements end with a semicolon. So let's see. A JavaScript statement is a command to a browser. The purpose of the command is to tell the browser what to do. A statement can be used to perform a single task, to perform multiple tasks, or to make calls to other parts of the JavaScript that perform several statements. JavaScript statements can be grouped together in a block in blocks. Blocks start with a curly bracket and ends with a right curly bracket. The purpose of a block is to make the sequence of statements execute together. Most JavaScript statements end with a semicolon. Comments. We may need to make notes in our JavaScript code, such as to describe what a line of code is supposed to do. It's also possible that we will want to disable a line for the script for some reason. For instance, we are looking for an error in our script. We may want to disable a line in the script to see if it is the line causing the error. We can accomplish these tasks by using JavaScript comments. We can insert comments that appear on one line or run for numerous lines. Okay. So you already learned about the comments in HTML. So just like there, here in JavaScript also you can add comment. So write it down. How do you add comment in the HTML code? What was the syntax of comment in HTML? Write it down. What is the syntax of comment in HTML? So this is how you have added a comment in an HTML file. Okay. Angle bracket, exclamation sign, then double hyphen. Then whatever comment you want to add, you can add it over here. Thereafter again, double hyphen, closing angle bracket. This is how the comment was added in the HTML file. Coming to the JavaScript, the things are simple over here. You will add double slash. A pair of forward slash is added over here, and this is how a code will get commented. Okay. Now, if you want to add multiple line of comment, then slash, asterisk, asterisk, slash. So this one is used for a multi-line comments. The comment are very useful in JavaScript or any of the coding language, and there are different purpose, as we have learned in HTML, that many times we want to add some comment, our thought or our logic in terms of word. We want to explain our coding. For that purpose, comments are used. Another thing is, many times we are running a code and some problem is coming. So we try to comment some of the lines to see whether it is working or not. Okay. So these are the different purposes for comments. We can add a single line comment by using double slash, or multi-line comment by starting it from slash asterisk and closing it by asterisk slash. Anything that is placed between these symbols, automatically they will get commented, they will not get executed, है ना. कमेंट का मतलब क्या होता है कि जिस भी लाइन को आपने कमेंट कर दिया वो लाइन एग्जीक्यूट नहीं होती है. जैसा रिक्वायरमेंट है एक लाइन का करना है तो डबल स्लैश करिए, कई सारी लाइन का करना है तो स्लैश एस्ट्रिक करके उसके बीच में, जैसे इस कोड में आप देखिए, द जावास्क्रिप्ट कोड इज नाउ वर्किंग, दिस सेक्शन इज हिडन. इस तरीके से बीच के पोर्शन को हम लोग स्टॉप करा देते हैं कि वो बीच का ये जो जितना भी पोर्शन यहाँ पर लिखा जाएगा वो एग्जीक्यूट नहीं करेगा. ठीक, चलिए इसको एग्जीक्यूशन में आने से पहले अब आप लोग कुछ काम करिए. अपने एंड पर एक जावास्क्रिप्ट की फाइल क्रिएट करिए और उसमें document.write का कमांड यूज करके प्रिंट कराइए, हेलो आई एम यूज, दिस इज माय फर्स्ट जावास्क्रिप्ट पेज. 10 मिनट का टाइम दे रहे हैं, बहुत ही सिंपल सा काम करने को बोला जा रहा है आपको. क्वेश्चन समझ में आ गया होगा. आपको एक जावास्क्रिप्ट की फाइल बनानी है. जावास्क्रिप्ट फाइल में document.write ये कमांड होता है. यहाँ पर जो प्रिंट होता है वो ऐसे प्रिंट नहीं होता, उसके लिए document.write को यूज करना पड़ता है. document.write कमांड को यूज करते हुए प्रिंट कराइए, हेलो दिस इज माय फर्स्ट जावास्क्रिप्ट पेज. ठीक, और याद रखिएगा जावास्क्रिप्ट को चलाने के लिए आपको HTML कोड लिखना पड़ेगा. ठीक, 10 मिनट में इसको एग्जीक्यूट करिए. Now here you can see I am also trying to write down this code. Okay, so some of you, any one of you have done this task?
Yes,
Completed
ma'am.
this? Okay. तो किसी को कोई दिक्कत आ रही है इस टास्क में, नहीं हो पा रहा है, ऐसा भी कोई है?
यस मैम।
नहीं हो पा रहा है सुनील आपका?
मैम जो फाइल इसमें सेव करेंगे वो .js के फॉर्म में सेव करेंगे मैम।
जावास्क्रिप्ट की .js में, HTML की .html में।
तो मैम ये ओपन कैसे होगा इस पे?
चलिए बता रहे, चलिए बाकी लोग बताइए और किसको प्रॉब्लम आ रही है?
मैम मेरा भी नहीं हुआ है अभी।
ओके, चलिए इसका सोल्यूशन देखिए। जिनका नहीं हो पा रहा है, जिनका हो गया वो बहुत अच्छा, जिनका नहीं हो पा रहा वो ध्यान से सोल्यूशन देखें। दो फाइल बनेगी, ठीक है? सो व्हेनेवर यू एग्जीक्यूट अ जावास्क्रिप्ट कोड, देयर विल बी टू सेपरेट फाइल, वन विल बी HTML file and another one will be a JavaScript file. As it is mentioned earlier, JavaScript cannot executed in a standalone manner. It need to be called from the HTML page. Okay, so that's why we need a HTML page for this one. So as you can see right now on the screen, I have created one HTML page. There is nothing in this one than the basic necessary tags: HTML head, title, closing head, body. Inside the body, I am including one tag, which is the script tag. Why I am using this script tag? Because I want to call my external JavaScript file. That's why I am including this script tag over here. What will be the attribute with this one? As you have written down in your copy, there are two attributes that need to be included. First one is type. Okay, its value will be text public Java script. Okay, then there will be src equal to whatever is the name of a JavaScript file. Like suppose I am giving it as hello.js. Suppose I will create my JavaScript file with the name of hello.js. Okay, so this is how my script tag will be created. Then I will place a closing script tag. That's it. Okay, so that's it for the HTML. I'm saving it as save as. Okay, so then I am placing its name as javascript1.html. See, what I will do, I will create another file over here. I will save it as hello.js. ठीक है, ये ध्यान रखिएगा एक्सटेंशन यहाँ पर .js चल रहा है। प्रीवियस वाले में क्या था? .html एक्सटेंशन था। यहाँ पर क्या एक्सटेंशन आ रहा है? .js. JS स्टैंड्स फॉर जावास्क्रिप्ट। ठीक, इसको सेव करिए। यहाँ पर हमने आपको क्या बताया था? document.write कमांड को लिखने को बोला था। तो कैसे लिखा जाता है इसको देखिए, document.write, ठीक है। देन पैरेंथेसिस, डबल कोट्स, जो आपको मैसेज यहाँ टाइप कराना है, हेलो वर्ल्ड, this is my first JavaScript code. Yes. Document.write is a command through which we can write anything on the browser. Whatever you want to write it, you need to place it inside the parenthesis, inside the double quotes, and this line will end by a semicolon like this way. Okay. I am saving this page. Okay, let's see what will happen. So I will open my JavaScript 1.html page. See. Hello world, this is my first JavaScript page for it. समझ में आ गया सबको?
Ma'am, at JavaScript file, why are we not writing about the script? It is external.
No, we have written it down. It is given over here. See the line number
In
6 of the
HTML,
HTML.
in HTML document, we are writing about, we are describing that we are writing some JavaScript code now, ma'am. Again, in external hello.js document file, we are just writing the content that only to be printed. Again, we are not expressing that it is a JavaScript code, that like script tags.
No, it will not be placed over here. It is not a tag-based language. The script tag is used inside the JavaScript only. Are you getting it? So if you are writing down some internal JavaScript code, means if you are giving the HTML, if you are adding the JavaScript code inside the HTML, in that case, you will write it down in between the script tag.
Okay.
You have created an external JavaScript file. That's why it is called from here by using this line number 6 of HTML code. When we write the JavaScript language, a JavaScript page, none of the HTML tag will be used. Okay, means it could be used, but right now I am not using it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And ma'am, we
Yes.
are already saving it as a JavaScript file. Then there is, I don't think so there is any need to specify as a script. We are already saving it as a JavaScript file. Means this could be the reason also that we are not mentioning here a script at all.
No, means you cannot include the HTML code inside the JavaScript file. Okay,
Yes.
so that's why you cannot write it down the script tag over here. It could be written in the HTML only. We can include some of, so I'm coming to that part where we can include the HTML code inside the JavaScript. I will cover it later on. But right now, what I'm trying to tell you that the HTML tags are not used inside the JavaScript. That's why the script tag is not used inside the .js file. It is given in the .html only. Yes, any other question? चलिए, जिनका नहीं एग्जीक्यूट हो रहा है वो बताइए, इस कोड को लिख करके चलने लग गया। सुनील,
यस मैम।
एग्जीक्यूट हो रहा है? आपका ऑडियो कट जा रहा है सुनील, रिपीट करें आंसर।
मैम कुछ प्रॉब्लम है, आ नहीं रहा मैम क्रोम ओपन करने के बाद।
आप ऐसा करो, दूसरा ब्राउजर ट्राई करो एक बार। कभी कभी कुछ ब्राउजर ऐसे होते हैं जो जावास्क्रिप्ट के कोड को कभी कभी ब्लॉक करने लगते हैं, तो ये चेक कर लीजिएगा कि आपके एंड पर तो ऐसा प्रॉब्लम नहीं है। यस, शुभम,
मैम
आपका एग्जीक्यूट हो रहा है?
यस मैम।
ठीक, और कोई स्टूडेंट है जिसका
मैम
एग्जीक्यूट
मेरे
नहीं हो
में
रहा
इशू
है?
आ मेरे में
क्या प्रॉब्लम है अरुण आपके में?
हम एक्सप्लोरर पे भी खोल रहे हैं तो बस मैम वो ओपन ही नहीं हो रहा है।
आप ऐसा चेक करें कहीं ऊपर लिख करके कुछ ऐसा तो नहीं आ रहा है, ब्लॉक करके कुछ एक छोटा सा पॉपअप ऊपर की ओर देखिए, जब आप ओपन कर रहे हैं ऊपर पे, यहाँ पे देखिए जब आप ओपन कर रहे होंगे तो इस जगह पे जहां मैंने अभी कर्सर, जहां ये लिख कर आ रहा है हेलो वर्ल्ड, वहां कोई छोटा सा कोई पॉपअप मैसेज तो नहीं आ रहा है?
मैम ट्राई करते हैं मैम, फिर इन्फॉर्म करते हैं।
बाकी स्टूडेंट बताइए, बाकी सबका हो गया कि नहीं?
यस मैम, हो गया।
नहीं हुआ मैम।
पहले देखो कोड में तो प्रॉब्लम नहीं है आप लोग के? पहले मैं आप लोग का चेक कर लेती हूँ कि इसको आगे तभी कंटिन्यू हो पाएगा जब तक सबका नहीं चल जाता। ये सारा लोग स्क्रीन शेयर करो, देखो बताओ क्या दिक्कत आ रही है। ठीक है, इसमें तो कोई दिक्कत नहीं है। स्क्रिप्ट दिखाइए, इसमें भी कोई दिक्कत नहीं है। खोलिए इसको।
मैम स्क्रिप्ट वाली फाइल ओपन करनी है कि HTML वाली?
अरे इतनी देर से क्या बता रहे हैं, HTML लिख ही रहे हैं, इसीलिए लिख रहे हैं। जावास्क्रिप्ट सीधा नहीं ओपन होता,
अच्छा
HTML होता है। HTML खोलो आप। कोई और ऐसा मिस्टेक मत करिएगा कि जावास्क्रिप्ट खोल रहे हो।
मैम।
ओके, कंट्रोल यू करिए। कोड में तो लगती नहीं। दूसरे ब्राउजर में एक बार खोलिए।
क्या हो गया इसको? नहीं हो रहा है।
ओके, आप फोल्डर में जाइए वापस से, जिस फोल्डर में आपने सेव किया हुआ है फाइल्स को। डे 1 पर राइट क्लिक करिए।
डे हो
शो मोर ऑप्शंस पे करिए।
प्रॉपर्टीज में
नहीं, आप डे 1 पर राइट क्लिक करिए।
First left click on day one, then right click.
ओपन विद पे जाइए। तो ये ऑप्शन है, चलिए क्रोम करिए। नहीं चल रहा है। कैसे चलवाया जाए आपका? तो ठीक है।
परमिशन अलाउ करना पड़ेगा क्या कुछ मैम?
कुछ ब्राउजर्स में प्रॉब्लम आता है, लेकिन आपके में मैसेज भी नहीं आ रहा है। तभी मैंने बोला था कि कभी कभी ब्लॉक कर देता है HTML कंटेंट को, लेकिन वो भी आपके में नहीं आ रहा है।
एक्सटेंशन
चलो थोड़ी इसको बाकी स्टूडेंट्स का हम देखते हैं, नहीं तो फिर आपका आफ्टर क्लास देखेंगे। और कौन था? यस, शुभम आपका क्या
मैम
हुआ?
अरुण।
हाँ, अरुण बताइए, आपका भी नहीं चल रहा है?
मैम मेरा चल रहा है, बट मैम जब मैं इसको कंट्रोल यू करके उसका कोड देख रहा हूँ मैम, तो जो मैम आपने कोड लिखाया था स्क्रिप्ट टाइप में जिसमें डिफाइन किया था, उसके बाद मैम जो दूसरा फाइल में .js का था मैम, वो डिस्प्ले तो हो रहा है, तो बस सही है कि नहीं मैम, वो कंफर्म नहीं हो पा रहा है।
कोड एग्जीक्यूट होकर के जो आपने डॉक्यूमेंट डॉट राइट में कंटेंट लिखा है वो दिख रहा है कि नहीं अरुण?
यस मैम, दिख रहा है मैम, और मैम क्रोम में ओपन भी हो रहा है।
हाँ, तो कंटेंट दिखा रहा है ना? आपका ऑडियो बीच बीच में चला जा रहा है अरुण, इसलिए समझ नहीं आ रहा आप क्या कह रहे हैं। आपसे ये पूछ रहे हैं कि जावास्क्रिप्ट में जो आपने मैसेज लिखा था वो आ रहा है कि नहीं डिस्प्ले होकर के?
यस मैम, आ रहा है।
तो बस बस वो एग्जीक्यूट हो रहा है, तब कोई दिक्कत नहीं। आलोक आप छोड़ दीजिए, नेक्स्ट शुभम।
मेरा नहीं हो रहा, नहीं आ रहा मैम।
ओके, स्क्रीन शेयर करिए।
मैम 2 मिनट टाइम।
The spelling of document is wrong, so correct it and it will run.
Yes. ये किसने स्क्रीन शेयर, जिसने भी स्क्रीन शेयर करी हुई है शायद आलोक आपने करी हुई है।
आलोक, स्पेलिंग गलत है डॉक्यूमेंट का, उसको सही करो, सही रन हो जाएगा। DOCU now run the code.
What is the issue? May it take time. It takes time. Google takes time to sync out.
एग्जीक्यूट हो गया आलोक?
यस मैम।
चलिए, थैंक यू भगत।
Thank you, ma'am.
आलोक आप भी थैंक यू बोल दीजिए भगत को।
भाई
चलिए नेक्स्ट और किसका था? सुनील आप बताइए।
यस मैम, मैम स्क्रीन शेयर करो, सेम प्रॉब्लम आ रही है।
देख लो आप लोग भी, बाकी लोग भी स्पेलिंग भी देख लो, सारी स्पेलिंग आप लोग ने सही लिखी है कि नहीं। टाइपोग्राफिकल एरर होगी तो भी नहीं चलेगा। करिए, जल्दी से स्क्रीन शेयर करिए जिससे क्लास आगे चले। स्क्रिप्ट में टी मिसिंग है, लाइन नंबर 6 जावास्क्रिप्ट में टी मिसिंग है।
यस मैम, थैंक यू मैम।
ओके सुनील। क्लास शुभम आप ही का बस बचा है, उसको स्क्रीन शेयर करिए जल्दी से।
मैम लिखा है यहाँ पे डॉक्यूमेंट डॉट राइट और मैम यहाँ पे स्क्रिप्ट टाइप डॉट माई फर्स्ट जावा डॉट GS। मैम स्क्रीन विजिबल है?
हाँ स्क्रीन विजिबल है। तो पहले SRC SCR लिखा है, लाइन नंबर 8 देखिए। जावास्क्रिप्ट में डबल कोट्स के बाद में गैप लगाइए, हाँ, और SRC के पहले स्पेस दीजिए, सिंगल स्पेस। अब इसको करिए, एग्जीक्यूट करके देखिए।
यस मैम आ रहा है, हो गया मैम।
ओके, तो आई होप सबका एग्जीक्यूट हो गया है। कोई ऐसा स्टूडेंट नहीं बचा जिसका नहीं चल रहा है? अभी भी कोई स्टूडेंट है जिसका एग्जीक्यूट नहीं हो रहा है तो वो बताइए, तो उसका भी कोड चेक करके हम लोग कंटिन्यू करते हैं इसे। ओके, चलिए एक नेक्स्ट टास्क बाकी लोग को। अभी आप लोग ने डॉक्यूमेंट डॉट राइट के थ्रू सिंपली एक मैसेज प्लेस किया। अब आप एक पॉपअप बॉक्स मींस सामने बॉक्स डिस्प्ले करें, पॉपअप बॉक्स बना करके सेम मैसेज को डिस्प्ले कराइए।
मैम अभी आपने क्या बोला करने को, प्लीज थोड़ा रिपीट कर दीजिए।
पॉपअप बॉक्स बनाइए और सेम मैसेज डिस्प्ले होगा उसमें।
मैम पॉपअप बॉक्स कैसे बनाते हैं?
सर्च करिए, नेट पे सर्च करिए, अलर्ट जैसा कोई एक आपको कमांड मिलेगा वहां पे। विंडो डॉट अलर्ट देखिए, कोई ऐसा कमांड मिल रहा है? अगर मिल रहा है तो उसको यूज करिए, विंडो डॉट अलर्ट। ठीक है, इस तरीके का मैसेज सबके पास आ रहा है। दिस पेज सेज हेलो वर्ल्ड, दिस इज माय फर्स्ट जावास्क्रिप्ट कोड, हुर्रे।
मैम नहीं मिल रहा मैम उसमें नेट पे।
देखिए सोल्यूशन, देखिए स्क्रीन पर मेरे, विंडो डॉट अलर्ट, सेम मैसेज। डॉक्यूमेंट डॉट राइट की जगह विंडो डॉट अलर्ट। हो गया सबका विंडो डॉट अलर्ट? किसी को अगर प्रॉब्लम आ रही है तो बताइए, जिसका विंडो डॉट अलर्ट नहीं चल रहा है। चलिए, सो हम अज्यूम कर ले रहे हैं कि सबका विंडो डॉट अलर्ट परफेक्टली वर्कआउट कर रहा है। चलिए नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन सुनिए, ध्यान से सुनिएगा, ये थोड़ा टफ है, उसको थोड़ा ढूंढना पड़ेगा आपको। आपको दो वेरिएबल डिफाइन करने हैं, num1 एंड num2। लिख लीजिए कॉपी में, क्वेश्चन लिखिए कॉपी में सब लोग। डिफाइन टू वेरिएबल num1 एंड num2, assign num1 value 6 and num2 value as 7। ठीक, define two variables num1 and num2, assign num1 value 6 and num2 value 7, and then full stop, display the summation and subtraction value of these two variables. Display addition and subtraction value of these two variables on the screen. क्वेश्चन क्लियर है? क्वेश्चन क्या बोला जा रहा है? डिफाइन टू वेरिएबल num1 and num2 means you need to define two variable. The name of the first variable is num1 and the name of the variable 2 is num2. Once you have done defining of these two variable, the next step is that you need to perform the summation operation on these two variable. Thereafter, you need to perform a subtraction operation on these two variables. And thereafter, you need to display a message which will tell you the value of summation and subtraction of these two variables. Okay. Till now, nothing has been told to you. You haven't learned about the variable definition, how to define a variable, how to assign a value to a variable, how to perform an operation on the variable. All these things have not been covered till now. But I'm giving you 10 minutes time so that all of you can learn these things by yourself. Take the help of the internet and quickly try to perform this task. This is a very simple task, but you need to define a variable. As a hint, I am giving you some of the terms. Var. First term is var. Var stands for variable. With the help of var, you can define the variable, and rest of the operation are very simple. By simply using the assignment operator, equal to operator, you can perform the value assignment, and by using the addition and subtraction, you can perform the operation. And finally, by using document.write or window.alert, you can display the output of these two operations. 10 minutes time, quickly perform this task.
Ma'am, done. Ma'am, one more thing I have to ask. Ma'am, how to create a space between two things? Like I have written one message and then I want my that summation or sub addition should be displayed, and I want to create a space of one line.
Wait a minute. Yes. BR/. Okay, like this.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay, let's see the solution. If any one of you have not been able to perform this task, see the solution over here. First thing is you need to define a variable. How to define a variable? By using a var keyword. So I'm defining a variable for num1. Then second variable is num2. Therefore, I am placing a comma over here and a space. Next variable is num2. Since we are performing an addition of two variables, we need a third variable that will hold the summation information. So I am adding a third variable sum. Then there is a need of one more variable that will hold the value of subtraction. So I'm adding a fourth variable subtract. So once you have declared all the variable, a semi-comma is placed, semicolon is placed. Then sum is equal to num1 plus num2. Okay. Then subtract equal to num1 minus num2. Okay. All these are the statements, and all the statements end with a semicolon. Then document dot write sum of two variables is. Okay. Now there is a new thing over here. In a document.write, instead of writing something, some string, I want to associate a variable value over here. The two variables sum and subtract value, I want to add it over here. So how to include a variable? Like suppose if I write down sum over here, what will happen? अगर हम इसमें सम लिख देंगे डबल कोट्स के अंदर तो क्या होगा? सम एज इट इज प्रिंट हो जाएगा. हमें सम को एज इट इज प्रिंट नहीं कराना. हम क्या चाहते हैं? सम वेरिएबल के अंदर जो वैल्यू है, अलजेब्रा सबने पढ़ा है. अलजेब्रा में जैसे वेरिएबल डिफाइन करते थे, है ना, उसी तरीके से यहाँ पे भी वही वेरिएबल वाला हो रहा है. जो अलजेब्रा में वेरिएबल आपने पढ़ा था वही वेरिएबल यहाँ पर बनाया जा रहा है. तो हम सम को एज इट इज प्रिंट नहीं करना चाहते, हम सम की वैल्यू प्रिंट कराना चाहते हैं. अगर डॉक्यूमेंट डॉट राइट में एक स्ट्रिंग के साथ में आप कोई वेरिएबल की वैल्यू ऐड कराना चाहते हैं, तो डबल कोट्स में आपको जो भी स्ट्रिंग लिखनी है वो लिख लीजिए, जो मैसेज लिखना है वो लिख लीजिए. उसके बाद ये समेशन का सिंबल, प्लस का सिंबल बनाइए, देन सम. इसी तरीके से आप लिखना चाहते हैं subtraction of two variables is, so we will associate subtract variable over here. Okay, I'm saving it up. Now I'm going to see its output.
Ma'am, document.
DOC, okay.
Hmm.
Yes. Num1 equal to 6 and num2 equal to 7. We need to define first in the line 1, the variables are declared. In line number 2 and 3, the value to the variables are assigned. Okay. Clear? So this is how we are going to declare a variable, assign a value to a variable, perform operations on the variable, and finally print the values of the variable. This is how the whole code has been executed. Is it clear to everyone? Just see whether it is executing at your end or not. So what you have learned from this variable exercise? From this variable exercise, we have learned how to define a variable. How? As per line 1, by using the var keyword. Okay, there is another new term, keyword over here. So by using a var keyword, you have defined the variable over here. I will come to each and everything, like what is keyword, how to define a variable. The theory part I'm just going to cover. But first, we are seeing how to perform this task so that the theory will be more clear to all. By after defining the variables as per line 1, the next task is we need to give some value to the variables, because the second point of your question says that the value of the num1 is 6 and num2 is 7. So by using the line number 2 and 3, by using the assignment operator, what is assignment operator? The equal to symbol which is used in these second and third lines. Okay. In both the lines, equal to symbol is used. This equal to symbol is called assignment operator. So you are assigning a value to the variable. Then once you have done the assignment of values to the variables, the next operation thing is we need to perform operations on the variables, that we need to perform the addition and subtraction operations over them. So that's why line number 4 and 5 are used. By using these two lines, the operations of addition and subtractions are done. Once the operations are performed on the variable, we need to print that one on the screen. For the printing, you have learned two terms, document.write and windows.alert. So I'm using document.write over here. The document.write is clear to everyone that inside the parenthesis and double quotes, thus whatever string that you write, whatever content you will write, it will get printed as it is. So that's why the content which I have placed inside the double quotes, sum of two variable is printed as it is. But thereafter, I want to associate the variable value also. So if I write down sum inside the double quotes, then it will get printed as it is. I do not want to print the sum as it is. I want to print the variable value over here. So in order to write down the variable value, what I have done, I have used the addition operator and then the variable name. It means whatever content you have written, it will be followed by the variable value of some variable. The sum variables value get appended. There is a term called append. Append means including. You will append means you will add up two strings. So here, whatever I am writing inside the double quotes, it will get printed and it will be followed by the sum variables value. Similarly, in the seventh line, there is one thing new in the seventh line, which is BR tag. If you want to change a line, you have to use the BR tag of HTML. Okay. So BR tag is included over here. The BR tag will make the change of line over after giving the sum value. Okay, the subtraction values will be given in the next line. How the line changing is done by using the BR tag of the HTML. Okay. Now let's see the theory of this whole thing. So you have learned about the comments. Now variables, what you have done right now. So let's see what are the naming convention, because we haven't learned. Naming convention means how to name a variable. What are the do's and don'ts instruction for the variable? Let's see the theory part. A variable represents or holds a value. The actual value of a variable can be changed at any time. So this is true for any of the variable that you have learned in the mathematics. So same thing is given over here in the first point. They can be used in places where the value they represent is unknown when the code is written. They can save time in writing and updating scripts. When we assign a value to a variable at the beginning of a script, the rest of the script can simply use the variable in its place. We decide to change the value later, we need to change the code in only one place. Okay. They are code clarifiers. Since variable represent something and we can give them meaningful names, they are often easier to recognize when we read our scripts. So total price equal to 2.42 plus 4.43. Total price equal to candy price plus oil price. Let's see what is there are two important things which are said in point number 3 and 4. Coming to the point number 3, what it says, like suppose suppose there is some code. In that code, the pi value is used. Okay, like by using pi r square, the area has been computed. By using pi r, to pi r, the perimeter is computed. Whatever, there are different formulas that are used over there, and the value of pi is used in all the computation. Now suppose instead of using pi as a variable, you have used pi as a constant. Okay, what I'm trying to say, suppose I would say इस कोड में हम सपोज कहते हैं आपसे कि आपके पास में रेडियस है, रेडियस का r है और आपको एरिया कैलकुलेट कराना है. ठीक, आप क्या करोगे, r की वैल्यू डिफाइन करोगे. सपोज r इक्वल टू 10, ये हमने r को असाइन कर दिया. देन एरिया इक्वल टू पाई, पाई की वैल्यू 3.14 मल्टीप्लाइड बाय r, देन अगेन मल्टीप्लाइड बाय r. पाई r स्क्वायर फॉर्मूला को यूज करते हुए इससे हमने कंप्यूट किया. ठीक, एक बहुत छोटा सा कोड है, बट सपोज इस तरीके की बहुत लंबा सा कोड होता है, कई जगह पाई आर स्क्वायर या दूसरी तरह से पाई को यूज करके एरिया कंप्यूट किया जाता है. लेटर ऑन बोला गया कि पाई आर स्क्वायर की वैल्यू ये 2 डिजिट तक ठीक नहीं है, डेसिमल के बाद 5 डिजिट तक हमको इस पाई की वैल्यू को लेकर के जाना है. अब हमारा टास्क क्या होता, पूरे कोड में हमको ढूंढना पड़ता कहाँ कहाँ पाई की वैल्यू यूज करी गई है, और उस हर एक जगह पर जाकर के पाई की वैल्यू को चेंज करना पड़ता है. इसको करने की बजाय अगर हमने एक काम कर लिया यहाँ पर, या सपोज ठीक है, तो यहाँ हमको हर जगह जा करके इनकी वैल्यूज को चेंज करना पड़ता है. अब अगर हमने यहाँ पर ऐसा ना करके अगर ऐसा कर लिया, ठीक, और यहाँ पर बोल दें पाई इक्वल टू 3.14, यहाँ पर हम क्या लिखेंगे, पाई. नेक्स्ट प्लेस पर हम यहाँ क्या लिखेंगे, अगेन पाई। अब अगर हमको कोई बोल रहा है कि पाई की वैल्यू 1 2 नहीं 3 डिजिट तक लेकर के जानी है, हम बस यहां पर एक चेंज करेंगे, दैट्स इट। जस्ट ओनली लाइन नंबर 9 पर चेंज होगा, और कहीं पर हमें कोई चेंज करने की जरूरत नहीं। हमें कहीं नहीं ढूंढना कि पाई का यूज और कहाँ कहाँ हुआ है, कुछ नहीं करना, बस एक जगह जाकर के यूज चेंज करना है। ये बात पॉइंट नंबर 3 में बोली गई, ठीक है। That they can save time in writing and updating scripts. When we assign a value to a variable at the beginning of a script, the rest of the script can simply use the variable in its place. We decide to change the value later, we need to change the code in only one place rather than in numerous places. ठीक, सेकेंड पॉइंट, थर्ड पॉइंट क्लियर हो गया होगा सबको। अगला पॉइंट देखिए, वेरिएबल्स और कोड क्लैरिफायर्स क्यों कहा जा रहा है। यहां पर एरिया का फॉर्मूला देखिए, हमने ऐसे लिखा, ठीक है। इस फॉर्मूला को पढ़ करके कोई भी समझ जाएगा कि एरिया की वैल्यू कैसे निकली है। लेकिन अगर ऐसे लिखने की बजाय हमने इसको ऐसे लिखा होता, ये समझ में आता। लाइन नंबर 10 में आप मॉडिफिकेशन देखिए, 3.141 multiplied by 10 multiplied by 10. So how the value of area is calculated, it is not clear. But if instead of using 10 and 3.141, if instead of this, if I have written pi compare line number 10 and 11. Compare both the lines, line number 10 and 11. So obviously you will see that line number 11 is more clear as compared to line number 10. Why? Because it is obvious that pi r square has been used as a formula for the computation of the area. So that is what they are trying to tell you in the line number, in the point number 4, that the variables are code clarifiers. Like you can see the example, total price equal to 2.42 plus 4.33. Nothing is clear, but by last line, automatically it is clear that total price is for candy and oil price. So this is how they have computed the total price. So variables are the code clarifiers. Next, declaring variables. So we have first done the practical on this one. So it will be clear to all of you that how the variable declaration is done. I'm just quickly reading it out. To declare text as a variable, we use the var keyword. What is keyword? Keyword are the predefined words or those words whose functionality is predefined. है ना, कोई वेरिएबल, कोई भी ऐसा शब्द जिसको क्या करना है ये पहले से बताया जा चुका होता है, उसको कीवर्ड कहा जाता है। धीमे धीमे आप जब कोडिंग करेंगे तो आपको अपने आप बहुत सारे कीवर्ड याद होते जाएंगे। तो यहाँ पर जब आपने अभी जो वेरिएबल वाले एग्जाम्पल को एग्जीक्यूट किया था, वहां पर var शब्द को यूज किया था, var देन num1 num2 sum subtract ऐसा लिखा था। तो var क्या था? var एक कीवर्ड था जिसका क्या काम है, क्या फंक्शनैलिटी है पहले से बताई जा चुकी है कि वो वेरिएबल डिक्लेरेशन के लिए यूज होती है। तो कीवर्ड इन सभी शब्दों को कहा जाता है जिनका क्या फंक्शनैलिटी है ये पहले से डिक्लेयर्ड होती है। तो इसीलिए हम कभी भी कीवर्ड को वेरिएबल नेम की तरह नहीं यूज करते हैं। ठीक, इसको रीड आउट कर रहे हैं। टू डिक्लेयर टेक्स्ट एज अ वेरिएबल वी यूज द var कीवर्ड which tells the browser that the text to follow will be the name of a new variable, like var variable name. For example, to name variable cool car, the declaration looks like this: var cool car. The semicolon ends the statement. The variable does not have a value assigned to it yet. Assigning values to a variable. To assign a value to a variable, we use the assignment operator, which is the equal to symbol. If you want to declare a variable and assign a value to it on the same line, use this format, var variable name equal to variable value. For example, to name your variable paycheck and give it the numerical value 1200, use this statement where paycheck equal to 1200. Or what you have done, you have done this task in two separate line, है ना. यहाँ पर क्या हो रहा है, यहाँ पर एक ही लाइन में डिक्लेरेशन एंड असाइनमेंट, वैल्यू असाइनमेंट एक ही लाइन में करके दिखाया जा रहा है. आपने भी किया, लेकिन आपने इसको ब्रेक करके किया है. पहले सभी वेरिएबल को डिक्लेयर कर दिया और उसके बाद, यस, एनी क्वेश्चन, एंड देन वन बाय वन वेरिएबल को आपने वैल्यू असाइन करी. यहाँ पर डिक्लेरेशन एंड असाइनमेंट दोनों को एक साथ भी करने का तरीका दिखाया गया है. यूजुअली हम लोग पहले सबको डिक्लेयर कर देते हैं, उसके बाद जैसा रिक्वायरमेंट होती है उस हिसाब से असाइनमेंट करते जाते हैं. आप चाहें तो एक ही लाइन में जहां वेरिएबल नेम इक्वल टू उसकी वैल्यू करके डिक्लेरेशन एंड असाइनमेंट कंबाइन करवा सकते हैं. देन नेमिंग वेरिएबल, कुछ कन्वेंशंस होते हैं जिसको वेरिएबल्स को नेम करते हुए यूज करना चाहिए. इसको ध्यान से देखिएगा. Using case and variable, using allowed character, avoiding reserved word or avoiding keywords, giving variable meaningful name. One by one इनको देखते हैं. Using case and variable. First point, variables, JavaScript variables are case sensitive. What is case sensitive? इस शब्द का मतलब क्या होता है? Case sensitive.
Means them capital and small letters.
Yes, it means that there is a difference between the capital and small letter. यहाँ देखिए paycheck का example दिया है. स्पेलिंग चारों पेचेक की सेम है, लेकिन उसका कैपिटलाइजेशन अलग अलग है. तो ये एक वेरिएबल ना होकर के ये 4 वेरिएबल्स हैं. ये चीज बहुत ध्यान रखिएगा, क्योंकि अभी तक आप लोग ने केस सेंसिटिविटी कहीं भी नहीं देखी. HTML भी केस सेंसिटिव नहीं था, जावास्क्रिप्ट के कमांड्स भी आपको केस सेंसिटिव नहीं मिल रहे हैं. लेकिन वेरिएबल में ये बहुत ध्यान रखिएगा, जैसे कि अभी छोटी छोटी मिस्टेक्स हम लोग से होती हैं कि स्पेलिंग नहीं सही है और कोड वर्क नहीं कर रहा है. तो यहाँ पे भी ये प्रॉब्लम आएगी कि अगर आपने डिक्लेयर किसी और कैपिटलाइजेशन, लाइक डिक्लेरेशन आपने ऑल स्मॉल में किया, असाइनमेंट आपने ऑल कैपिटल में कर दिया, तो वहां पर मिस्टेक होगा. मेक श्योर कैपिटलाइजेशन सेम रखें, क्योंकि केस सेंसिटिव है, और अगर आपने नहीं रखा तो कोड एग्जीक्यूट नहीं होगा. Next, when you create a variable, you need to be sure to use the name case when you write that variable name later in the script. If you change the capitalization, JavaScript sees it as a new variable or returns an error. Here are a couple of suggestions for using a case in a variable name. This is not a fixed way of defining a variable name, but you can go for this one. First one is, if you are using a variable name that consists of only one word, it is probably easiest to use lowercase for the entire name. It will be quicker to type, and you will know when you use it later to type it all in lowercase. For a variable name, 2 words, you might decide to capitalize the first letter of each word. For example, you may name a variable by my car or my underscore car. So usually we suggest go for all small, means use lowercase for variable declaration. But in case that your variable is consist of 2 words, okay, like my car as it is given over here. So if you are using my car, so use capital M and capital C for both the terms, or you can write it down completely lowercase and you can place underscore between 2 words. So whatever you like, you can use it. Then using allowed characters. An important rule is that variable name must begin with a letter or an underscore. Variable name cannot begin with a number or any other character that is not a letter. The characters in the variable name can be letters, numbers, or underscores. Blank spaces are not allowed in the variable names. Okay, so there is a list of valid and invalid variable name. Okay, coming to the first one, why the first one is invalid? Why the first one, hash paycheck, is invalid?
मैम अल्फाबेट नहीं है मैम, लेटर
नहीं,
हैज
यस,
लगा है मैम।
हैश जो है वो स्पेशल कैरेक्टर होता है। स्पेशल कैरेक्टर में केवल एक अलाउड है, वो है अंडरस्कोर। ठीक है, तो यहाँ पर हैश जो कि अलाउड नहीं है, आप केवल अंडरस्कोर यूज कर सकते हैं, इसके सिवा कोई भी स्पेशल कैरेक्टर यूज नहीं कर सकते। इस कारण से पहला वाला इनवैलिड है। चलिए सेकंड वन पे चेक।
मैम नंबर यूज हुआ है पहले,
हम
1।
कैन नॉट बिगिन विद नंबर।
यस, डिजिट से स्टार्ट नहीं हो सकता। फर्स्ट जो वेरिएबल जो स्टार्ट होगा वो या तो अल्फाबेट से स्टार्ट होगा या अंडरस्कोर से स्टार्ट हो सकता है, पर वो डिजिट से, किसी नंबर से, न्यूमेरिक वैल्यू से स्टार्ट नहीं हो सकता। थर्ड थर्ड क्यों इनवैलिड है?
Spaces are not allowed.
स्पेस
ब्लैंक स्पेस इज नॉट अलाउड, तो यहाँ पर पे एंड चेक के बीच में ब्लैंक स्पेस आ रहा है। बाकी नीचे की थर्ड फोर्थ फिफ्थ सब में सेम प्रॉब्लम है। फोर्थ में स्पेस आ रहा है, फिफ्थ में भी स्पेस आ रहा है। ठीक है, एक बार वैलिड वाला भी अपने एंड पर देख लीजिए। नेक्स्ट इज अवॉइडिंग, थर्ड अवॉइडिंग रिजर्व वर्ड। इसको पहले ही बता चुके हैं आपको। So another rule is when naming variable is to avoid the use of JavaScript reserve words or keywords. These are the special words that are used for a specific purpose in JavaScript. For instance, the reserved word var is used to declare a variable. Using it as a variable name can cause numerous problems in your script since this word is meant to be used in a different way. So one simple rule is don't use reserved word or keywords. The next question must be raised in your mind is, how will I know what are the reserved words? So this one is the list of all the keywords, all the reserved words are listed over here. Over the time when you do the coding, just like in HTML, as I have told you, over the time when you do the HTML coding, you will remember all the tags. Similarly for the JavaScript, when you do the coding, over the time you will remember the keywords. So try or make sure that you do not use any of the keyword. Last is giving variable meaningful names. This is means this is a very useful thing, and it is not just limited to a variable name. It is applicable to your day-to-day life. Why? Because many times what happens, that suppose some exercise is given to a student, or you need to save your layout map, something like that. What the student do? Their favorite way of naming is their name followed by 1, followed by 2, followed by 3. Okay, your first name, your given name, followed by 1, 2, 3. This is the worst way of giving any of the file a name. कोई आपका जो भी आप एबीसी हैं, ABC1, ABC2, ABC3, ऐसे कभी भी नेमिंग नहीं करी जाती है। ना कभी फाइल में ऐसे नेमिंग करिएगा, ना कभी किसी वेरिएबल को ऐसे नेम करिएगा। नेमिंग किस तरीके से, जैसे सपोज आपको वेब जीआईएस से रिलेटेड सारा कंटेंट सेव करना है, तो क्या कई बार लोग स्टूडेंट्स करते हैं, या तो वो एबीसीडी कर देंगे, या न्यू फोल्डर का नाम आ रहा है तो न्यू फोल्डर 1, न्यू फोल्डर 2 बन जाएगा, या आपका जो भी नाम है, आप अपना फर्स्ट नेम, ठीक है, फर्स्ट नेम, और जैसे सपोज किसी का फर्स्ट नेम स्वाति है तो स्वाति 1, स्वाति 2, स्वाति 3, ऐसे करके वो सारी चीजें सेव होती हैं। ये काम कभी भी मत करिएगा। वेरिएबल को भी ABCD XYZ इस तरीके के नेम मत दीजिए। नेम ऐसे दीजिए जो उसको डिस्क्राइब करते हो, है ना, उसके ऑपरेशन। जैसे अभी हमने पाई दिया तो PI दिया, रेडियस के लिए हमें R नहीं, रेडियस टर्म को यूज करना चाहिए था। ठीक, कहीं कोई एग्जाम्पल है तो EG या EX को यूज करें। जो भी वेरिएबल रिप्रेजेंट करेगा, भले ही उसका नाम थोड़ा सा बड़ा हो जाए, थोड़ा सा आपको 2-4 की आपको ज्यादा प्रेस करनी पड़ जाए, लेकिन उसको करें। और कभी भी सेंसलेस नेम ना अपने फाइल को दें, ना अपने फोल्डर को दें। और जावास्क्रिप्ट की जब कोडिंग करें तो उसके वेरिएबल नेम को भी हमेशा सेंसेबल नेम दें। स्पेशली आप, क्योंकि अभी तो बहुत ही लोकलाइज्ड यूज है कि आपने अपना कोड लिखा हो गया था, लेकिन जब उसको आगे यूज किया जाता है कोड को, सपोज आपने वो कोड हमको चेक करने के लिए भेजा, तो उस केस में क्या होगा, वो हमें समझ ही नहीं आएगा कि यहाँ पर ए कैसे आ गया, बी कैसे आ गया, सी कैसे आ गया। तो अगर आपने वेरिएबल को सेंसिबल नेम दिया है तो वो ऑटोमेटिकली, जैसे अभी हम लोगों ने पढ़ा कि वेरिएबल्स आर कोड क्लैरिफायर्स, सो ये एक तरीके से उसी का एक कन्वेंशन है कि कैसे क्लैरिफायर्स है कि अगर आप उसको मीनिंगफुल नेम देंगे। So you should try to give variable names that describe what they represent as clearly as possible. Suppose we want to use a variable to hold a number of an example on a page. Rather than using x, ex, or another short variable, we must use something more descriptive, like variable example underscore number. So this is how you should make sure that whatever variable you are using, its name must be meaningful. I will cover this part in the next turn. So in the next turn, you will learn about the variable types. JavaScript is a very lenient language. Therefore, there is no need to define the types when you are doing the declaration of a variable. At that place, you haven't done the declaration of the variable type. If you are using Java, C, C++, at all those places before assigning, wherever we are declaring a variable, its type need to be declared in JavaScript, but it is not declared during the variable declaration. But how we are using types, how it is used, we will learn later on. Okay, so this will be covered in the next time. Thank you so much to all of you. If there is any confusion, you can ask. Okay, it's already lunchtime. Okay then, thank you so much. The class is over for now.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.